Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going deep, really deep into something I think a lot of us find pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the nature of reality. What's real, what's not, that whole thing. And you guys sent in some really interesting stuff for this one.
Lay it on me.
We've got scientific papers, we've got philosophy, we've even got some spiritual reflections,
Wow.
all trying to figure out how we experience this world around us.
So, like, are we all just living in our own little bubbles?
Yeah, exactly. Or is there some kind of, objective truth out there? And where does imagination even fit into all of this?
Lots to unpack.
Seriously.
It's really interesting, though, how all these different sources make you think outside the box, like beyond the everyday, the concrete stuff.
Totally.
I think we just kind of take reality for granted a lot of the time.
For sure.
We assume everyone sees things the same way, but that's so not true.
Right. It's like, I swear, one time, my friend and I were watching a sunset,
Yeah.
and we saw totally different colors. We argued about it
Yeah.
for, like, years.
No way.
And it turns out, neither of us was wrong. We just, perceived the light differently. It really makes you think, how many other truths are out there that are really just, personal interpretations?
That's exactly where this idea of subjective reality comes in.
Oh, right. Some of the sources talked about that.
Yeah, and it's not just about, like, seeing colors differently.
Okay.
Our experiences, our beliefs, even just our mood on a given day.
Yeah.
It all colors how we see things.
So, okay, if everyone's experiencing these slightly different realities, how do we even begin to have a shared understanding of anything?
Right.
Is there any common ground at all?
Well, the sources definitely have different ideas about how to even define reality.
Okay.
Some of them focus on the physical stuff, what we can measure and test.
Makes sense.
But then others get into the philosophy of it all.
Oh, like deep thoughts?
Yeah, they ask whether what we see lines up with some ultimate truth. And then there are even those who explore the spiritual side of things, suggesting there's more out there than what we can see and touch.
One source even brought up the simulation hypothesis.
What's that?
That idea that we're all living in a computer program, like the Matrix.
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty wild, right? Makes you wonder, if we can't even be sure what's real, how do we make decisions? Do our choices even matter?
That's the question, isn't it? I mean, philosophers have been trying to figure that out forever.
I guess so.
But, even if it's just a thought experiment, I think the simulation idea can be helpful.
How so?
Well, it forces us to examine what we believe, and it makes us think about how much we really know.
Kind of humbling.
For sure. And I think a lot of these sources really emphasize the role of the observer in shaping reality.
Okay.
It's not just about passively seeing things.
Got it.
We're actually participating in creating the world we experience.
Wait, are you talking about that observer effect? I've heard of that in physics and stuff. But how does that apply to everyday life?
Well, think about it. Let's say you go see a movie.
Okay.
And everyone's telling you how amazing it is.
Right.
So you go in expecting to be blown away. You might miss the flaws,
Oh, I see.
You're focused on what confirms your expectations.
Right.
But if you've heard mixed reviews,
Yeah.
you might be more critical, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
You'll notice the flaws more. It's the same movie, but you have a completely different experience, all because of your pre-existing lens.
So you're saying our expectations actually change how we experience things?
I think so, yeah.
That's kind of, I don't know, unsettling.
Yeah.
We're not just witnessing reality, we're influencing it.
It can be unsettling, for sure, but I think it's also incredibly empowering.
In what way?
It means we're not just passive recipients, right?
Yeah, it's not.
We actually have a hand in shaping things. And that brings us to another fascinating thing these sources explore.
Which is?
The power of imagination.
Okay, so imagination. We're not just talking about daydreaming here.
No, it's way deeper than that.
So what role does imagination play in, shaping our reality?
I think our sources make it pretty clear that imagination is like a bridge.
The bridge.
Yeah, between our inner world, our thoughts and feelings,
Right.
and the outer world, like what we actually experience.
Okay.
Imagination lets us think about all kinds of possibilities.
I guess so.
It helps us see things from different angles.
Yeah, I could see that.
It even lets us kind of push past the limits of what we think is possible in the real world.
If I'm struggling with a problem at work,
Yeah,
sometimes just imagining different solutions helps me get creative.
exactly. It's a problem-solving tool.
Makes sense.
a source of inspiration, you know? It's a way to explore all these different versions of ourselves.
And the world.
Yeah.
But I guess there's another side to that too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
What if, like, we're creating our own realities with our thoughts and imagination,
Right.
but those thoughts are negative?
Uh-huh.
Doesn't that lead to some pretty bad places?
Oh, for sure. A few of the sources actually warn about that.
Really?
Yeah, about the downsides of an untamed imagination.
Like what?
Well, if you're always dwelling on fears, anxieties,
Yeah.
those worst-case scenarios,
Right.
that can shape your reality in a way that's not helpful.
A bit. Even harmful, I guess.
Exactly.
So how do we balance that? It's
Yeah.
like we need imagination to be creative, but we don't want it making us miserable.
Well, that's where those 7 strategies for mastering the mind come in.
Oh, right. I remember those.
You know, we could spend a lot of time talking about each one,
Sure.
but I think based on your sources,
Yeah.
awareness and grounding techniques are probably the most relevant for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was really interested in those.
Uh-huh.
Awareness seemed pretty straightforward, but grounding techniques, I
Yep.
wasn't sure how to actually use those.
Yeah, I get it. It can sound kind of, I don't know, esoteric or something.
Right.
But it's actually pretty simple.
Oh,
It's about bringing yourself back to the present moment
gotcha.
when your thoughts are, running wild.
Like spiraling.
Yeah, exactly. Your sources suggest a bunch of different ways to do it.
Okay.
Some people focus on their senses.
Like what?
What do you see, hear, smell, taste, touch?
Oh, right.
Others find it helpful to do something physical,
Oh, interesting.
go for a walk, stretch, anything to get out of their head.
So it's like you're interrupting those runaway thought patterns with something real.
Exactly. You're stepping back into the present.
Okay, that makes more sense. But what about that awareness thing?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that kind of obvious? Don't we already know what we're thinking?
We might think so,
Okay.
but real awareness takes some serious self-reflection. You gotta pay attention to the subtle stuff.
All stuff.
Yeah, the thought patterns that we're not even really aware of,
Right.
the ones that shape how we see things.
Like what?
Well, like, do you tend to focus on the negative?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you jump to conclusions?
All the time.
Especially when you're stressed.
Oh, totally. I'm always thinking of the worst case scenario.
That's pretty common.
It is.
Yeah. But just by recognizing that pattern,
Yeah.
you've already taken the first step towards changing it.
So it's not like we're stuck with our thoughts, right?
Wow.
We can actually, like, choose to notice them and maybe even change them
Yeah, I think that's the key.
to something more positive.
Exactly.
This whole thing has really changed how I think about things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always knew thoughts were powerful,
Sure.
but I never really thought about how they shape reality.
It's a big concept.
That's a lot of responsibility,
It is.
but kind of exciting too.
Absolutely. And it's not just about our own little individual reality.
What do you mean?
Well, some of the sources talked about interconnectedness.
Oh, right. Like we're all connected.
Yeah. Our thoughts and actions, they all add to something bigger.
Hmm.
It's like if I'm always focused on negative stuff,
Yeah.
I'm not just bringing myself down. I'm adding to the negativity out there in the world.
Whoa. I never thought about it like that.
It's kind of like dropping a pebble in a pond, you know?
No, okay.
The ripples spread out, they affect everything.
That's a good way to put it.
Our thoughts and feelings, they have an impact, even if we don't see it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's like the one big thing you want listeners to remember?
You're not just watching reality go by, you know?
Okay.
You're a part of it, you're shaping it.
With our thoughts and perceptions and imagination.
It.
So it's not about accepting what we see. It's about questioning it, maybe even challenging it,
Mhm.
and then choosing the reality we want.
That's it.
Wow, this has been eye-opening.
I'm glad.
Thanks for helping me us make sense of all this.
Of course.
Yeah.
But remember, the exploration doesn't stop here.
Right.
What parts of your life feel stuck? You know, where could you use a new perspective or some of that imagination power?
That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring.